what do you like about Aris as a theater, and what do you like about performing with Aris?
And there's the dog. Well, my first experience performing with Aris was last year doing the Burns Supper.
Okay.
And I had a great time. I thought it was a very professional theater company. It was actually my first experience working with a theater company.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was great. Thought it was really good.
Fantastic.
Well crafted. I enjoyed the way everything was put together, the rehearsals, the program.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, it being Burns night, you know, we have a very specific theme, Robert Burns. I'm pretty sure you were probably familiar with Robert Burns before Burns night last year, but what about Robert Burns, his songs appeal to you, or is there a favorite song you've got, or what do you like about performing his songs?
I love performing Burns material. I think he was not only very prolific, but very sensitive songwriter, a hopeless romantic.
Yeah.
But he was also very, very much involved with social justice. I was surprised to see that in doing a little bit of research that he was popular in Russia at the time because he favored the working man, the individual, over government and over aristocracy. As far as his songs go, I love his songs. I love the melodies. I guess my favorite is "My Love Is a Red, Red Rose," but I also love "A Man's a Man for All That," which now is called. The actual title is "Here's for Honest Poverty." It's just so cool.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
So cool. And the stuff transcends time. It'll probably be honored 200 years from now as it was 200 years ago.
And I have a couple of questions about just you as a musician. When did you first start playing? Or what got you interested in music as a career? And you know, how many instruments do you play?
Well, I grew up in New York City. I started playing at age 10 when I saw two other students in fourth grade who were probably 9 performing on guitar. And I thought, oh man, that's for me. I started taking classical guitar lessons, and I had a great teacher. It was an hour lesson, and she broke it up into 45 minutes of classical, and then classical, you're up here, and then we switched over to this leg and holding the instrument down and worked on folk music. And she taught me how to Travis pick. So everything went really fine for about a year and a half, and then the Beatles came out. And this was like February of 1963, and from then on, I was more involved with rock and roll, but also folk music too. I remember really embracing Bob Dylan, especially the first couple of Bob Dylan albums. And I remember performing. I got hired to perform at a party, and this is like I was probably 12 years old, and I memorized was it Bob Dylan's 115th Dream? I don't know if you're familiar with that song, but it's almost like a talking blues kind of song. It goes on and on and on. This is when I had the capacity to remember lyrics, which has since devolved. And then, you know, fast forward 2 years, I played a lot around New York City. When I was 14, I'm starting to play in bands. And when I was 14, I was playing Girls' Sweet 16s. When I was 16, I was playing frat parties in Brooklyn and Queens and stuff. The drinking age back then in New York was 18. So, you know, and then I started playing clubs when I was 17 up there. Some friends of mine came down to Emory and invited me to come down and work on an album project with them. And that's how I ended up in Atlanta in 1971. The album was successful for what it was doing. Two of the other musicians that were on the album became rather famous. One of them went on to play keyboards and sax with the Motels. The other one went on to play with Tom Petty, his drummer, Stan Lynch. And so I just stayed here and played, made a living playing music. And then somehow I got involved or introduced to Celtic music. And it's kind of funny because in the neighborhood I grew up in New York, I never heard any traditional Irish music whatsoever.
Interesting.
You walked into a bar and I was from Rockaway Beach. If you walked into, which was, known as that and Breezy Point were known as the Irish Riviera in New York. And, but they were playing Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. You never heard traditional Irish music. And when I was introduced to it down here, quite by accident, I became completely enamored. And that's what I've been focused on for about the last 25 years.
Wow.
I started a band called the Border Collies. Mm-hmm. We're still around. We're still playing. I also started a band when the Border Collies went on break for a couple of years. I started a band with my oldest daughter called the Blarney Girls, and they were very successful. And they toured around for almost 10 years. We did 4 albums. The Border Collies have 3 albums out. One of the projects that I've done that's never been released that I would love to get released someday is a Celtic musical adaptation of the songs and poems within the text of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, interesting.
And we did a whole album of it. We thought we were going to make $1 million in Celtic music. And
you wouldn't be the first to think that.
Well, we could not get permission from HarperCollins.
Right.
Good. And what I learned was, if you're going to do somebody else's song, for instance, I recorded a Billy Joel song years and years ago, and all you had to do was let the publishing company know and pay the proper amount of mechanical royalty based on units sold. And I thought, oh, well, that's easy. I can just press 1,000 copies and pay them $100, whatever. I found out that if you're adapting text to music, it becomes a different medium, and you have to get a license. And so that was the kicker. So we had the whole album in the can. I was already spending the money that I hadn't made yet, and found out that I couldn't release it.
Oh, no.
So I had a choice as a producer. Do I alter the lyrics? Do I do it as an instrumental? Do I say music inspired by? In the end, I just put it on the shelf, and I'm waiting for permission from HarperCollins to release it. And but the music's great, and I think it was I think Tolkien would enjoy it very much because I think his whole theme was kind of on a Celtic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's interesting. You mentioned, you started out learning some classical, and then you did folk as well. And you've mentioned a lot of Irish stuff, but that push and pull with classical and folk, I think. How do you think that relates to say Burns with his songs and some of the Scottish things? Do you see any classical things, or do you feel it's more just the folk and the heart?
I look at it kind of differently. I think taking a poem of his and doing an adaptation is kind of like the same thing that I did with Tolkien. You can go any which way you want to go. And I'm not sure. I recorded a version. As a matter of fact, it's on our website. Can I mention our website? www.thebordercollies.com. And we came up with an adaptation of A Man's a Man for All That. And I kind of rocked it up a little bit. So, but at the same time, a song like My Love is a Red, Red Rose, when I'm performing it, as you will see at our upcoming Burn Supper on January 25th at the Academy Theatre, a little plug there,
yes.
Is to play it as more in a classical style, in a finger style, using a classical technique.
I think that's what's so interesting about his poems is they can go either way. He himself has that expressive ability to have that more refined classical feel, but at the same time, he's still folk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, good stuff.